How does the symbiote affect Peter Parker specifically? How is this different from its other effects on other hosts? And how does it make him stronger, and why it is so dangerous? The answer might actually surprise you. The symbiote arc is perhaps one of Spider-Man's most iconic storylines, on par with the death of Gwen Stacy, and arguably nearing the death of Uncle Ben. Spider-Man's black suit not only seemed to make him stronger, but much more violent and short-tempered. But is this really the case, or is there something more going on here? Well, today, my friends, let's discuss exactly what the symbiote does to Peter Parker and why its bond with Peter is so unique. When Peter Parker first took on the black suit, it came with a certain rush of confidence and power. For a while, he and the suit worked together fairly well, and Peter was still the same Peter Parker, just more confident. Slowly, however, his mentality began to shift away from his usual patient demeanor. Peter is one of the most patient and compassionate characters in all of the Marvel Universe, but he's been kicked around by the world on a daily basis. If there is one universal truth to the Marvel Universe, it's that the world hates Peter Parker and will continue to beat him down. What's interesting to mention though, is that it doesn't necessarily alter Peter's personality, it just brings out the darker aspects of what's already there. Peter knows he's been mistreated by the world, but he always remains composed and responsible. The symbiote, however, slowly begins to erode his patience and whispers in his ear, disguised as his own thoughts. Peter's kindness, however, usually stops him from getting even. But what happens when the symbiote begins to systematically strip this patience from Peter Parker? The symbiote not only influenced Peter into becoming more aggressive, but actually used his own voice to make Peter believe that they were his own thoughts. It made Peter understand how badly he had been treated, and made him wonder if it would really be all that bad if he released some of his anger. For a while, he became a much more straightforward and aggressive crime fighter, but it wasn't until the symbiote piloted Peter's body while he was asleep that he realized something was terribly wrong. This is when his conflict with the symbiote began to become more aggressive, with the symbiote tempting him to finally put down his enemies once and for all. His personal life also began to crumble due to his new attitude. He had pushed away his friends by being angry, impatient, and a shell of his former self, one that his friends did not recognize. This indicating that the symbiote had finally pushed Peter to his breaking point. What's interesting to note about this though, is that it seems that the symbiote didn't actually make Peter inherently stronger, at least not by the massive margins that he experiences at first. Instead, what it seems to do is lowered his guard, drawing most of his power. Unknowingly, even for himself, his enemies were meeting the full wrath of his true strength. In this irritated state, Peter may have failed to hold back a lot because his anger isn't something the symbiote is creating, it's bringing it out of him. Peter Parker is one of the strongest street-level Marvel heroes in all of the universe, and constantly has to hold back so he doesn't inadvertently kill or severely maim even the strongest of his enemies. If Peter were to truly cut loose, he would be entirely capable of ending just about everyone in his rogues gallery, and this is why his discipline is extremely important. With the symbiote though, his inhibitions are lowered, and he's not afraid of hurting anyone. Another incredibly important part about the symbiote and Peter's relationship is that the symbiote views Peter Parker as its equal. This is why Venom rarely materializes as thoughts in Venom's own voice in Peter Parker's head. Instead, he's more determined to align his own power with that of Peter's, with a connection between Venom and Peter being stronger than the likes of Eddie Brock and Norman Osborn. With all of this said, the symbiote does make being stronger, but we're simply saying that Peter already has a great amount of power that he never lets himself access. When the symbiote bonds with a human host, like Eddie Brock or Flash Thompson, it grants the host a myriad of abilities, but when bonded with Spider-Man, it assimilates his power set into its genome, and can now mimic many of Spider-Man's natural powers as its own. This is what allows Venom to shoot webs and climb walls, as well as why the symbiote does not trigger Spider-Man's spider sense. It's also interesting to note that it was learning from Peter Parker this entire time. The symbiote was studying his fighting styles and approaches so that it could pilot his body and mimic his skills even while Peter was asleep. In this state, it was able to subdue several villains at once who previously gave Peter a difficult time, including the likes of Rhino, Doc Ock, and Electro all at the same time. When Peter abandoned the symbiote though, it became vengeful towards him and sought to get even. This, paired with Eddie Brock's own hatred of Peter Parker, made the two a near-perfect match, but not as strong as Peter and Venom's relationship. The symbiote, though, granted Brock the strength to fight Spider-Man, as well as all the knowledge it had collected on Peter. This meant that Venom adopted Peter's power set and an immunity to his spider sense, but he also had his complete strategic blueprint. But then this brings up the question, how powerful would the symbiote have made Peter Parker if he let loose? If Peter didn't get rid of the suit and fully embrace the power of the symbiote, what kind of a menace would he truly have become? The idea at the center of this question is really, what if Peter lowered all of his restraints and let himself cut loose? His durability is already on par with some of the strongest Earth-level heroes. On a few occasions, common thugs have broken their hands by trying to just punch Spider-Man. Spider-Man has tanked hits from Thanos, the Hulk, and Thor without being incapacitated. Peter's main weakness is piercing-based attacks like blades or bullets, and while his spider sense can usually aid him in getting out of the way, he has been badly wounded by them before. These types of weapons are consistently dangerous, but if he were wearing the symbiote, then it could protect him from these sorts of attacks, mitigating the weakness in this area. His base strength has been listed as 25 tons by Marvel themselves, but with adrenaline and under the right circumstances, Peter is able to reach 50 tons of raw strength. It's reasonable that the symbiote could properly amp him up to keep him closer to the 50-ton number, which has let him go toe-to-toe with the likes of the Thing and send the Hulk flying. Not only does he have the sheer strength to back him up and the durability to help him tank massive hits, but the speed to avoid getting hit most of the time. Peter's spider sense and reflexes mean that he can respond almost instantaneously, and more times than not, he's nearly untouchable. This is all to say that a bloodlusted Spider-Man is a truly terrifying prospect that would elevate him far beyond simple street-level heroes. All this power would be fed by not just the symbiote and its own cosmic knowledge, but Peter's own intellect. Peter Parker is one of the most brilliant minds on Earth, and has outsmarted Tony Stark and Hank Pym on more than one occasion. He is a brilliant biologist and tactician, and his mind, paired with the information and knowledge of the symbiote, would make him even more formidable. If Peter had embraced the power of the symbiote, and if he had allowed himself to completely fall to the dark side in a sense, then he would have been an absolute menace, possessing a power never to be trifled with. We've seen the symbiote elevate human hosts to the same level, with Venom and Agent Venom specifically. The symbiote was able to grant these regular people the same level of Spider-Man, even making Venom one of Spider-Man's most fearsome foes. We are left to only imagine what a fully symbiotic Peter would have looked like, and how strong he may have been if the symbiote had fully taken him. If Peter was truly evil, I believe that Venom and himself would have merged as one, similar to Cletus Cassidy and Carnage, no longer calling themselves we, but rather referring to themselves as I. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this idea? Do you think the symbiote was providing Peter with strength, or was it simply lowering his guards so that he didn't hold back as much? Where do you think most of his strength was generated from? What do you think would have happened if Peter never got rid of the symbiote? And would this have changed the landscape of Marvel and the universe altogether? As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting the channel today. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I hope you're having a great one.